You haven't subscribed to the channel yet? Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. When home became too close. It's hard to put this into words, but perhaps sharing my story will help me find some clarity. My name is Emily, and my husband, Michael, left me because of a mistake I made. A mistake that haunts me every day. Michael and I have been together for 10 years. We have a beautiful 2-year-old son named Noah, a delightful little boy who lights up our lives. Michael works in finance, and his job demands long hours. Before everything changed, he was usually only home on weekends. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Then the pandemic hit. COVID-19 turned the world upside down, and suddenly Michael was working from home. At first, we were thrilled. "Think of all the extra time we'll have together," he exclaimed, unpacking his laptop at the kitchen table. "Finally, we can have lunch together like a normal family," I replied, smiling as I set Noah's sippy cup on his high chair. Our apartment in Brooklyn is cozy, a polite way of saying it's small, but it was ours, and we were content. Or so I thought. As the weeks turned into months, the walls seemed to close in on us. The dining table became Michael's makeshift office, papers and files strewn everywhere. Noah's toys cluttered the living room, and there was no escaping the constant noise. One afternoon, as Noah napped and Michael was on yet another Zoom call, I felt a wave of irritation wash over me. The sound of his voice, the click of his keyboard, it all grated on my nerves. I realized I was clenching my fists. "Is everything okay?" Michael asked later that evening, noticing my silence over dinner. "I'm fine," I muttered, pushing peas around my plate. "Are you sure? You seem distant." "I'm just tired, Michael. It's been a long day." Days turned into weeks, and our conversations became clipped and functional. We argued over little things, the mess on the table, the noise during his calls, the fact that he forgot to buy diapers. I started to resent his presence. The man I once missed terribly during his long hours at the office was now always underfoot. One night, after a particularly heated argument about whose turn it was to do the dishes, I snapped. "I can't stand this anymore." He looked at me stunned. "What do you mean?" Us, being cooped up like this. I feel like I don't even know you anymore." "Emily, we're all struggling. It's a pandemic. What do you want me to do?" "I don't know, just give me some space." "Space? In this apartment?" He scoffed. "Where exactly do you expect me to go?" I didn't have an answer. I just knew I needed to get out. The next day, I called my friend Lisa. "I need to get out of the house," I told her. "Can we meet up?" "Sure," she said gently. "How about joining me for a yoga class in the park? It'll do you good." "Sounds perfect." Yoga became my escape. Twice a week, I rolled out my mat on the grass and tried to find some semblance of peace. But it wasn't enough. I craved something more, something to make me feel alive again. That's when I thought of Daniel, an old college friend. We hadn't spoken in years, but I remembered how easy it was to talk to him, how he always made me laugh. Without overthinking it, I sent him a message. "Hey Daniel, long time no see. How have you been?" He replied almost instantly. "Emily, wow, it's been ages. I'm good, all things considered. How about you?" We started chatting regularly. It was innocent at first, reminiscing about old times, sharing funny stories. But soon, our conversations grew more personal. "Remember that time we got lost in Central Park?" He texted one evening. I laughed aloud. How could I forget? We walked in circles for hours. "Maybe we should recreate that adventure," he suggested. "You know, once the world opens up again." "Maybe," I replied, my heart skipping a beat. Our first meeting was at a coffee shop that had just reopened. Seeing him brought back a flood of memories. "You look exactly the same," he said, his eyes crinkling as he smiled. "And you haven't aged a day," I replied, feeling a blush rise to my cheeks. The second time we met, we ended up at a small boutique hotel downtown. The moment the door closed behind us, all my reservations vanished. We fell into each other's arms, and for a few hours, the world and all its problems disappeared. Afterward, as I lay beside him, reality crept back in. "I should go," I whispered. He brushed a strand of hair from my face. "Stay a little longer." "I can't. Michael will wonder where I am." He sighed. "I understand." For 3 months, Daniel and I continued our affair, each meeting filled with passion and a temporary escape from the confines of my life. I started taking better care of myself. I lost weight, updated my wardrobe, even tried a new hairstyle. Friends commented on how great I looked. "What's your secret?" Lisa asked one afternoon. "Just taking some time for myself," I replied vaguely. But beneath the surface, guilt gnawed at me. At home, things with Michael were worse than ever. We barely spoke, and when we did, it ended in arguments. Noah sensed the tension, becoming clingy and irritable. One evening, after putting Noah to bed, Michael approached me. "We need to talk." I crossed my arms defensively. "About what?" "Us. This distance between us. I feel like you're a million miles away." "Maybe I am," I snapped. He looked hurt. "Emily, please, tell me what's going on." Something inside me broke. "You want to know what's going on?" "Fine. I've been seeing someone else." He stared at me, his face pale. "What did you say?" "I've been seeing someone else." I repeated, my voice shaking. I cheated on you." For a moment, there was silence. Then, without a word, he picked up my phone from the coffee table, looked at it, and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, pieces scattering across the floor. "Michael," I gasped. He walked to the door, grabbed his coat, and left. The door slammed behind him, the sound echoing in the silence. He didn't come home that night, or the next. I tried calling him, forgetting my phone was destroyed. I emailed, but there was no response. After 3 days, he returned. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he looked like he hadn't slept. "Michael, I'm so sorry," I began, tears welling up. He held up a hand to stop me. "I don't want to hear it. Please, can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about," he said flatly. "I'm moving out." "What about Noah?" I asked, panic rising. "We'll figure it out. I won't abandon my son." "Michael, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Please, give me a chance to make it right." He shook his head. "I can't, Emily. You broke us." He packed a bag and left, leaving me alone in the apartment that suddenly felt too big. Now, weeks later, we haven't officially filed for divorce, but we're living separate lives. He comes by once a week to see Noah. Our interactions are brief and formal. I look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back. The confidence I felt during those months with Daniel has evaporated, leaving behind a hollow shell. I regret everything, reaching out to Daniel, betraying Michael, hurting my family. I wish I had found the strength to face our problems instead of running away. I wish I had chosen to fight for my marriage, for our family. But wishes can't undo the past. I'm sharing my story in hopes that others might learn from my mistakes. If you're feeling lost or disconnected, please talk to your partner. Don't let silence and resentment drive a wedge between you. Don't seek solace in places that will only bring more pain. Epilogue. A few months later, I reached out to Michael, asking if we could meet. We sat across from each other in a small cafe, the air thick with unspoken words. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," I began. He nodded but said nothing. "I've been seeing a therapist," I continued. "I'm trying to understand why I did what I did. I know saying sorry isn't enough, but I am deeply." He looked down at his coffee. "I appreciate that," he said quietly. "I miss you," I admitted. "I miss us." He sighed. "Emily, I love you with all my heart, but trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild." "I know," I whispered, "but maybe, with time." He met my eyes. "Maybe, but for now, let's focus on being good parents to Noah." I forced a smile. "He deserves the best of us." "Yes, he does." We parted ways, the future uncertain, but I held on to a glimmer of hope that perhaps someday we could find our way back to each other. Psychologist's perspective. The pandemic has placed unprecedented stress on relationships, forcing couples into close quarters and amplifying existing tensions. Emily's story highlights the dangers of avoiding communication and seeking fulfillment outside the marriage. Infidelity often stems from unmet emotional needs and a lack of open dialogue. Rebuilding trust after such a breach is challenging, but not impossible if both parties are willing to work through the pain with honesty and professional support.